Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the Learning Bhagavatam class. So today we've got a new guest speaker. Um, so it's the chapter on Canto 8 again, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, chapter 17. The Supreme Lord agrees to become Aditi's son. So our guest speaker today is Dīna Dayārdra Nātha, Prabhuji rather. Prabhuji was introduced to Krishna consciousness through the Pandava Sena at the Bhakti Vedanta manor. He's a disciple of His Grace Vishaka Prabhu and a graduate of both the Bhakti Shastra and Bhakti Vipa courses, which he now teaches at the manor. A qualified yoga teacher from the Govardhan Eco Village who has led sessions for the Krishna Consciousness Society at many of the UK's leading universities. Currently, Prabhuji is serving as a chaplain at the School of Oriental African Studies University. He continues to share Vedic wisdom through diverse forums and gatherings. A chartered accountant by profession with experience in international law firms. So welcome, Prabhuji. Over to you. Hari Bol.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Grateful to be here. So I'll just recite Mangala Charan and then we can begin. I hope I'm audible, just speaking at a normal volume. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutabhatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaruganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijna Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganarita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīna Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Panamami Hari Pre Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Pinna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so thank you very much everyone for being here, for having me here. I am going to do a tech check as well to make sure my devices are on silent or airplane mode at least. So I'll just do that quickly. And thank you, Prabhu, for that kind introduction. I forgot that I had even sent that. I started noticing this forum a while back, and I'm very much proud and happy to see that it's been running for such a long time. You're already on the eighth canto, and you guys have been so consistent. It's amazing. And at the time that I was curious about these sessions, and I wanted to see if I could facilitate for my own purification. I think you may have even been on the sixth or fifth canto. And when Prabhu informed me that, oh, you can definitely come on board maybe in a few months' time, I was so surprised that you're already on the eighth canto. It's kind of steering away from cantos 1 to 6, which I would say is slightly more comfortable. Not that I'm comfortable at any particular place in the Bhagavatam, but yeah, it just shows how much of a great program you have running here. So thank you so much for having me. So you're on the eighth canto at the moment, and we're really getting to the point in which Vamanadev is due to appear, and this is just before that, chapter 17, the Supreme Lord agrees to become Aditi's son. So what's happened here is that Aditi has performed the Payavrata ceremony, so ritualistic ceremony, and she has obtained a result that the Lord is agreed to become her son. And we'll have a look. I was thinking there's so many different ways of doing this. I haven't prepared a PowerPoint, which I think provides a bit more safety and security of something to trail along to for the speaker as well as the audience. But I was very much inspired and felt for my own growth that let me try something different. I heard the great class last week by Chiti Shakti Mataji, and I felt it was very inspiring. And I felt let's see if we can try something different. Um, so what I'll do is I'll look at maybe like just going through the different verses, what kind of themes come up. So starting from text one, and then we'll carry forward. We won't read the verses necessarily because I believe you have some time to do that. But we'll just look at the essential principles that do come out of these verses. So the first verse is very powerful and impactful, that it explains that Aditi was advised by her husband and who was acting as her spiritual master in this context. And the important particular parts of this verse are that she strictly followed his instructions without laziness, and in this way performed the Payavrata ritualistic ceremony. So that's in the verse translation. And the two components are the strict following of the instruction as well as without laziness. Um, and these components, or the real theme, which Prabhupada expands on in the purport, is having absolute faith in the spiritual master, having Guru Nishtha, which means the firm faith in the Guru. So within the purport, Prabhupada actually quotes a very interesting verse. So Prabhupada has been asked, or has quizzed his disciples many times, that what is the most important verse in the Vedic scriptures? And many times he said different things. But one particular instance, which I remember from a class, um, and I'll outline the importance of this class to me, was I'll just give you context that I was at the manor, and it was one of an illustrious speaker who was on the schedule, and unfortunately they couldn't make it in. So there was another devotee who had filled in for them. And it was quite a pivotal moment for me in Krishna consciousness because I'm very immature, I'm still immature, but I felt maybe I won't go to class. It's not the speaker that I had signed up for. I came here because I thought there was a particular speaker. And something in me just decided, hey, why don't you just go to here? Why don't you just do something different? Going against the mind, just go into the class and sit and listen. And I did that, and it's probably one of the first times I've done that. And the points that were made by the speaker in this one particular story just always stuck with me. And I've always shared it because it was such an important point and a story. So the story goes that Prabhupada was asking what is the most important verse in the Vedic scriptures, and his uh, disciples were saying many different verses. Does anyone want to give it a go? I don't know how interactive we can make it, but you can even just type in like a verse number. I think the chat's enabled. Any guesses?
Or
The
you
most
can
important.
or you can
Yeah.
unmute if anyone wishes to do so.
Okay. Okay, I can throw a few out there that were kind of at the point that yes, 1866, amazing. Yes. Just surrender unto me, have no fear, etc. Um, and there are many verses like this that were quoted, but Prabhupada had landed on a particular verse, and he said, no, the verse that is the most importance in all Vedic scriptures is the verse that he's quoted in this purport, and it's from the Shvetvatsara Upanishad. I think it's 6 to 23, or I might have got the verse number wrong, but I can check for you. But the verse goes, Yasya Deve Para Bhaktir Yatha Deve Tatha Guru. So this verse in particular has significant importance, and it's the kind of crux of all Vedic knowledge. Vedic literature. So I'm just gonna quote it for full effect. So yes, it's 623 of the Shweta Upanishad. So the translation of this verse is only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of the Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. So to think of this verse in a different, like a particular context, it highlights the significance of how much can we do of brute force, of activity of our own volition and action, of picking up the Bhagavatam, of understanding it, of creating different points, of putting things in ChatGPT, and maybe ChatGPT gives us some high realization and we can share it with others to sound like we're more advanced, etc. But actually, this verse is what really exemplifies the sum and substance of the Vedic tradition. And that's we want to have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master. And what is the result of having such faith? It's that the imports of Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. And the materially conditioned mind often thinks of manually revealed, some manual revelation that if I follow a manual, if I follow a protocol, if I remember a certain verse, if I do these particular activities, then I'll be successful. Because of course, yeah, I don't know if we look at things in a very mechanical way, like Krishna says, the state of mind one, has at the time of death, one attains that. So let me just keep going on. Let me just keep going on thinking, I'll just try and like by sheer effort, just remember a particular verse or remember the Maha Mantra, etc., which is great. We should try and do that as well. But at the same time, so much depends on the Lord and the spiritual master. And that's really where we want to put our faith. We want to put our faith there. And one key example of this imports of the Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed are the fact of just the different dynamics that can exist between guru and disciple. So, for example, Gaurav Kishore Das Babaji was known not to be such a scholarly personality. It was very simplistic. Would chant his just chant constantly, would shy away from society, etc. And he has a disciple known as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is known as a scholarly figure, who is known as a pundit who could defeat so many different people on philosophy, etc., and that he took shelter of Gauri Kishore Das Babaji. And that's no ordinary feat that he's has such implicit faith in the spiritual master. And is it that Gauri Kishore Das Babaji has, outlined to him the different scriptures and went through things methodically? Not necessarily, but there's actually a revelation that goes on between the spiritual master and the disciple, and as well as the Lord acts in different ways. So it doesn't necessarily mean we need to be so scholarly or judge others by that measurement, but rather it's about the faith that we have, because by having such faith, then the Vedic knowledge is revealed. It is revealed within the heart. So like this, um, in terms of following an instruction, it's without laziness. So it's about activity and action that she wants a particular result. How to get that result is by following a method or process. And often the times we're told of a simple process. You've probably heard it, the simple process of just chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Chant and be happy. That's one of the books that we have. But do we take the caveats with that as well? That there are no I think His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami once said there's no hard and fast rules of chanting, but there's I think something along the lines of like this soft and steady rules, um, soft and slow rules for chanting, that we can just slow it down. We can really meditate on the process, and by following that process, then we'll get the desired result. Um, it's sometimes not as simple, or maybe in the early stages of Krishna consciousness, spiritual master or devotees in general just encourage us just chant, and that's completely fine. When we're at the stage where we are at, we may just chant the holy names. We may do it a little bit lackadaisically, or we'd be so proud that, oh my, we'd report back to our friends after a week, I chanted a round, and they'd be like, amazing, right? We don't question them. Wait, Prabhu Maharaj, one round, like why not 16? It's that no, you've done that, you've executed, the advice that you're given at a particular point in your Krishna consciousness, and you're doing it so well without laziness, and it's great. But as we go on in Krishna consciousness, then there are these different aspects to check in with. That are we being lazy? Are we being complacent in our practices? And in this example from Aditi, is that she gets the desired result by following the instructions of the spiritual master, and also she doesn't do it lackadaisically, that she does it with care. So, for example, in the purport, it does say that as soon as the disciple thinks independently, not caring for the instructions of the spiritual master, he is a failure. Aditi very strictly followed the instructions of her husband and spiritual master, and thus she was successful. And a final point, I think, to do with this particular verse is that the success may not also be about the result that we achieved. So there may be an instruction that we're given, and it's about following the instruction rather than the result. The desired result may not be there, but actually following the instruction pleases the spiritual master. So this is the focus that we want to have in Krishna consciousness, that we're not result orientated, that we're actually we're more about the process. What's it called? Sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And it's important to keep that in mind in Krishna consciousness. And it's very easy to think in a result orientated way, because this is the way that the material world functions. And materially, we often focus on that. So, for example, on book distribution, recently we had the marathon, and it's all of, it's not all about numbers, but numbers are quite like at the forefront. Like there's a between devotees, how many books did you distribute, etc. Then there's also like at the end of the month, it's like, okay, how many books did you do in total, etc. Like that. But actually, for someone who's in that, let's say, marathon process of book distribution, their spiritual master may have just told them, I think it'd be nice if you went out on book distribution. And that person's success may have been that they touched the pavement. My own spiritual master, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, often says that just go touch the pavement, just step out on the pavement. You've done it now. Like at least you're there. You've got the books in your hand. Now, if you distribute a book, great. But even just that small result, that small action is actually a very sincere offering, and it can be even more. So like that. Okay, so let's just move to the verses that follow. Okay, so in terms of verses 2 and 3 from this chapter, there's a mention about the fact that her mind and senses were brought under control, and that was due to thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one thing I wanted to do is also try and give some examples here based on these principles. So I'll just go back one step just to the point of Guru Nishtha and firm faith. And for example, there's Arjuna for that point where before verse 2.7 in the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna surrenders, or rather, he gives Krishna the floor, accepting him as his spiritual master, and then wanting instruction from him. He has so many different ideas, he has so many different arguments, etc. And he's not exactly in the disciple dynamic, guru disciple dynamic with Krishna. But after that point, he's able to receive Krishna's teachings, and therefore there may be, a chapter dedicated, or Arjuna's mentioning his reasons not to fight, etc. But then there's a whole, 17 other chapters, and Krishna is able to actually instruct and provide that guidance to Arjuna. So, like this, in terms of text 2 and 3, what we're really looking at here is bhakti yoga is superior to mechanical yoga. So this is coming from me as a yoga teacher. I just came back from GEV in December, and we're taught the very basic principles of mind and sense control, of different pranayama techniques. I think Prabhupada would often describe it as drilling the nasal passage or something like that, like the kind of brute force of, let me just, to control the breath, and then the mind will become under control, the senses will kind of ease up, etc. But I can tell you it's a long endeavor that I felt the effects of it even after 30 days of yoga training. It's not an easy feature because at any point one can become swayed. The senses are such, they're so powerful. The mind is so powerful as well, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Chanchalehi mana Krishna brahmati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayur eva suduskaram. That even the wind, I think maybe even the wind might be a little bit easier than controlling the mind, because the mind is crazy. It's so fickle, it's obstinate, it's very strong. So like this, but actually, Bhakti Yoga gives us that method, which is a lot more sweet, soft, and can give us some confidence. Often at times, like it could even be a technique of breathing that, oh, have I done this correctly, and so on. But in Krishna consciousness, in Bhakti Yoga, it's so simple that we chant Hare Krishna, we control our tongue by eating prasadam, by chanting the holy names. We engage our different senses. And does anyone have any ideas of which example I give for Bhakti Yoga controlling the mind and senses? Does anyone know? I guess you haven't gone to this canto yet, but there's one particular example that comes to mind with someone who controlled their mind and senses by engaging in devotional service. Okay, I can always give the answer. That's always a benefit. Um, so the example I was thinking of is Ambarish Maharaj. So Ambarish Maharaj was able to engage his different senses in the service of the Lord. So he could use his legs to, walk to the temple, his hands to clean the temple floor, etc. Like this, and just really used his senses to um, absorb himself in the Lord, to use his mind to think of Krishna. His mind was absorbed in Krishna, his speech and glorification of the Lord. And what was the result of that when he was threatened by Durvasa Muni's curse? He didn't have to do anything in particular, like mechanically, because he wasn't, um, disturbed. Actually, uh, he gained protection from the Lord. So like this, that control of our mind and senses is almost like a byproduct. By practicing Krishna consciousness, there's no need of a separate um, endeavor. Just bear with me 1 second. Apologies about that. I just had a knock at the door. Um, so yeah, we were speaking about the endeavors of controlling the mind and senses, and that this can be done automatically through the process of bhakti yoga. And the verse that is quoted in the purport here by Prabhupada is Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. So one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Um, so one point I'll make on this, this comes from Satchidananda Swami, and I've always found it like profound concept, is that he gives them a model in which we can see to basically perform pure devotional service. So the model goes like this. He says that there's kind of you could say three hearts. So the first heart is performing one of the nine processes of devotional service. So it's very helpful in Krishna consciousness that these things are spelled out. You come to Krishna consciousness, I want to serve Krishna, I want to fall in love with Krishna. How do I do this? Well, don't worry, we've got nine processes here. So pick one of the nine, right? I don't know if anyone's ever done a magic trick, but like pick a card, any card. It's like you pick any of them, you're good, right? So pick one of the nine processes of devotional service. And once we do that, we have one of the nine processes of devotional service. The second layer to it, or let's say like the outer layer, is one of the nine processes of devotional service. The inner layer now is do it for Krishna. So, for example, we're Shravanam, we're hearing. We do that for Krishna. So we have our intention for Krishna, we're hearing for Krishna. And it's about Krishna. Krishna is the focus, and our attention goes towards Krishna. And then we have one last like inner circle, inner heart, and that is in a favorable mood. So an example here, you may think, okay, but can you give me an example of someone who may have done one of the nine processes of devotional service? Krishna is the focus, but not in a favorable mood. So one of the examples you could think of is Kamsa. Kamsa was doing what? He was remembering the Lord, right? Smaranam. He was thinking about Krishna, and it was Krishna that he was thinking about. So one of the nine processes of devotional service for Krishna, or Krishna is the topic, but not in a favorable mood, that he wasn't favorable to Krishna. So like this is a practical takeaway that in our lives, if we want to perform pure devotional service, because pure devotional service seems a very far off. It almost, if I don't know, if we said to someone, "Oh yeah, I'm just trying to do some pure devotional service," they think, "Okay, probably need a reality check here." Pure devotional service is a very like big idea, very grand, like it's only spoken about in theory, but actually, we can understand that it doesn't have to be so far away from home. Like it doesn't have to be such a theoretical concept. It's actually a practical living concept. Krishna consciousness is a living theology. It's not just full of post-dated checks of, oh, when this happens, then this will happen. It's that no, you chant now, you're going to feel the effects. You perform devotional service, we can try and do it purely now. We don't have to wait for spiritual body. So, like this, I hope this kind of helps in terms of like a practical kind of method. So, I guess moving to the other parts of the purport and the verses is, I think I'll move to a particular verse that stood out. And this was, let me just find it. This doesn't have a purport, so I guess it could be of a discussion. So I'm just going to move towards text 20. So this is 8:17:20. So the verse is, O lady, even if someone inquires, you should not disclose this fact to anyone, that which is very confidential is successful if kept secret. This was a verse that I don't know if anyone's ever had this experience, but sometimes there's a verse in the Bhagavatam or elsewhere in scripture, and I'm like, I want to know what the purport is, but there is no purport. It's a very interesting concept, but why, why does the Lord kind of go towards this point? And uh, the point of keeping things secret and confidential is that there's a nuance within what we do within Krishna consciousness. Because what do we know about transcendental knowledge from the, I think it's the, is it the ninth chapter in the Bhagavad Gita? But this is the king of all knowledge, right? It's Guyam as well. It's confidential knowledge, the most confidential knowledge. So like this in spiritual life, that there is spiritual energy, and we want to make sure that it's strengthened and kept intact. So what happens is that confidentiality can help in the sense that it keeps it strong. So sometimes exposure can weaken that. So for example, if someone has like a rut that they're doing, a vow that you're taking for a particular month, etc., you may not want to exclaim it at the top of the mountain to everyone or make it such a big thing that it we want to keep things confidential so that we can actually be strong in our vow, in our purpose, etc. It can also be misunderstood. So certain things that we do, they can be misunderstood. So in this particular case, in the eighth canto, 17th chapter, the Lord's referring to the fact that, hey, I'm actually in your womb, but just don't tell anyone about it. Like, keep it to yourself. It's going to be a good thing to do that. And that there can also be misunderstanding, that if something is revealed too prematurely or to the wrong audience, then it can be very easy to misunderstand. And also, you can imagine that if, someone has the Supreme Personality of Godhead in their womb, it's hard to think that there may not, the concept of ego comes into play. Did you know? Oh yeah, by the way, I'm not meant to tell anyone, but I've kind of got God as my child. Just keep it between me, you and me, and then you start telling like every other person, and it's one of those things of like keep it between you and me, but you've told everyone. So therefore, it's like what's the kind of the message that we're sending out? So like this in even within our kind of practice within Krishna consciousness is that we should be sensitive about what we share and keep certain things confidential. It can be a little bit difficult to comprehend, but it takes some practice and it takes just some sensitivity as well. For example, when we're preaching in Krishna consciousness, we don't generally offload too many things at once. There may be certain practices that we'd have to explain. Like if someone, I don't know, if a sannyasi or guru walks into a temple room and everyone pays obeisances and you've just taken your friend there, you may think about how to like particularly convey that. You may not tell them out and out like what the spiritual reason is, etc. But you keep that a bit to a later point. Like there may not be the best thing at that particular point in time. Uh, So yeah, like this in terms of making sure that we protect ourselves and protect others when we're sharing. Okay, and I'll just go towards next part. So, okay. Um, So I'll just jump back again towards the middle parts of the chapter. I'll definitely leave time for questions. Not promising that there's any answers for me, but we can always discuss, and I can always get back to you as well. So Just in terms of explaining like a general flow. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead then appears before Aditi, and her reaction is that she's overwhelmed. She's overwhelmed by the kind of symptoms of bhava bhakti, of ecstasy, of just being unable to speak. It describes that she felt to the ground like a rod in her obeisances. And yes, these are all kind of the symptoms when one is experiencing that ecstasy, and that they're very natural, they're not artificial, but that they're kind of heartfelt. Like, for example, Arjuna in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when he sees the universal form, he's just in awe, he's trembling, he's shaking, etc. So Aditi in this particular experience is also feeling that type of ecstatic symptoms or overwhelm. Um, and this can happen in terms of within Krishna consciousness. There's some who just chant the holy name for the first time at university programs. We've had that before, that people are like, wow, I felt like I was like shivering when I was chanting this mantra on the beads. I've never done it before, etc. And yeah, we can have some kind of shadow or minute experience. But at the same time, like these things can be very spontaneous, and it just gives us a glimpse into um, what more there is, like what we may be, feeling at a particular point in time, how advanced we are. But in this case, that Aditi is actually overwhelmed, like she can't contain herself from it. Yeah, that's the kind of symptoms she's experiencing. Um, scroll through. Uh, and I guess just a general point in terms of the glorification of Krishna or God. So she's, glorifying him in so many different ways. A Ramapati, husband of Lakshmi, Yagnapati, enjoyer of sacrifices, Tirthapad, source of all holy places, so many different ways. Um, she's glorifying him. And it's important to note that we can have the element of being grateful to Krishna, and also to understanding his glories, or kind of endeavoring to understand them. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, was it Janma Karma Cheme Divyam Evam Yo Veti Tattva Taktya Dehan Punarjama Netimamiti Sarjuna, that one who knows my transcendental, appearance and so on, like that, or features, comes to me. And there's this one story. I think this is from the Christian tradition. Gauranga Prabhu told it in a slightly different way. Um, but it's of this. I think he called it Dharmi Gora. So like dharmic horse. So one student wanted to ride the horse of his priest and said, "Oh, can I ride your horse, please?" He said, "Yeah, sure." So there's just two instructions. If you want the horse to go, you just say thank God. And if you want the horse to stop, you just say, God is great. So then he thought, okay, yeah, let me take it, the horse for a spin. I'm just going to ride the horse, and, I'll be back. So he thought, okay, how do I start? It's like I don't know, when you first start driving lessons, you're like, oh yeah, wait, I need to put it into this gear and whatever. So he was thinking, okay, yeah, thank God. Okay, thank God, thank God. And he thought, okay, yes, the horse is moving finally. And he was having such a great time. He's like, thank God, thank God, thank God. And then suddenly he comes to a cliff or chasm. So he's saying, thank God, thank God. And then he could see that, oh my God, there's a cliff coming. And he's thinking, wait, what's the way how do I stop the horse? I can't remember how to stop the horse. What do I do? And then literally just at the split second when he was just at the cliff edge, he remembered. He said, God is great. And then the horse stopped, and he said, oh, thank God. It's a funny story. Um, but in terms of a principle from there, is that there can be a balance as well. Like, of course, we thank God for all the kind of gifts we get. It's quite like a key aspect of many kind of religions, and of kind of like, grace. God, you've given us everything. Great. We should be doing that. But at the same time, Krishna consciousness is so amazing that it actually lets us like try to fathom or just go into the topic of God is great and how great he is. He's unlimited. Like we want millions of mouths of ears to hear, to chant about him, but the inexhaustible will never be able to have enough. But that's also an emphasis. So you can thank God. Please keep thanking him, but also remember God is great. So both aspects can be very helpful. And in relation to this this chapter, it's that you can see that Aditi prays, describes the Lord, glorifies the Lord, and also Brahma does the same too. And like this is the position that we want to be in terms of constantly praying to the Lord, constantly trying to understand Him, and His activities and etc. And yeah, we will obtain the desired result if we keep doing it, for Krishna in a favorable mood. Then there's pure devotional service, and if we keep that up consistently, yeah, we're going to be a pure devotee. Um, okay, I'll just I think a few more points, and then yeah, we can open it up. Like this. So let's have a look. Okay. Okay. So there's an interesting point made in the verse and well, I guess the chapter about the fact that it's a bit of a complex situation that the Brahmanas, the demons have, some favor uh, being protected by the Brahmanas. So then the demigods are wondering, hey, you need to help us out. But then the Lord's thinking, no, but they've also got the favor of the Brahmanas. But the thing is that that's what makes the Lord even more amazing. And this is what kind of brings the attraction or should make us kind of feel that attraction towards the Lord that, wow, he's an expert problem solver. Like it's not just an impossible kind of calculation, but the Lord is just so much more cleverer than us and than any being. So, for example, we have the examples of uh, Hiranyakashipu and Nishingadev. Hiranyakashipu was thinking, "Oh yeah, Yeah, I'm not going to be killed. You're going to give me this boon. Oh, I'm protected. I'm good. Nothing's going to happen to me." But what does Krishna do? Incarnates as Nishingadev, right? I can't be killed by a man or animal. Okay, half man, half lion. Okay, well, okay, there goes that security. Can't be killed at night or day. Okay, there's twilight again. Like Krishna is so clever, neither inside or nor outside. Okay, let me just do it right at the doorstep, at like the hall, right? It's there's no particular way. Like Krishna doesn't just have to press a undo, right? He's just got a way that he can figure out how to um, please everyone in all circumstances, like make things go on in his cosmic creation without creating disturbance. So, for example, the way that he deals with Bali Maharaj isn't just like, all right, you're out. Like, I'm God, so I can just remove you out of here, etc. But he actually incarnates as Vamandev and he tricks him. So this is the power of Krishna and the brilliant mind of Krishna that he's able to work in ways that we just can't fathom. Like, and this is kind of like often an argument posed by people, in terms of, oh, why did God do this and why did, all this type of stuff. But it's actually that Krishna is so much more cleverer that he's actually got ways um, to sort out different problems. And this is like a key example of that in this particular chapter, like that. Like for example, as well, uh, the personality of Kali and Maharaj Parikshit. So I don't know if anyone's experienced this in the Bhagavatam, but sometimes when we read something, we're thinking, wait, I've got an answer to this. And then when we read on, we're like, oh, okay, Krishna did something totally different to what we were thinking, or a devotee did something different. So if you have the personality of Kali, he's causing chaos, he's murdering this bull, etc. A logical approach is like, hey, why don't you just get rid of him? It's a bit simple. But what does Maharaj Parikshit do? And what does Kali do? Kali begs him for protection, says, Maharaj Parikshit, please protect me, actually, I'm surrendering to you. So what does Maharaj Parikshit do? He could just go against the Dharmic code and think, oh, yeah, you asked me for protection, now forget it. Like, I'm just going to try and make this Bhagavatam a bit shorter by just getting rid of you and you don't exist. No, he follows the protocol. He actually thinks that, okay, you actually have asked protection. I am meant to give you protection as the king. So therefore, you're going to reside in these places, right? So like this, there's a particular reason why things are followed through and to keep things in cosmic order. So yeah, Krishna always has the best plan, and the devotees as well have the best way of dealing these with these particular situations. Okay, I think we'll do one final. I just have a final glance at uh, any other particular points that stick out. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to open it up. Okay, I think I'll just finish on this point and we can open it up. Is in text 24. So the translation is when Lord Brahma understood that the Supreme Personality Godhead was now within the womb of Aditi, he began to offer prayers to the Lord by reciting transcendental names. And Srila Prabhupada then expands in the purport of the transcendental names that we've been given. So chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and that he is actually automatically pleased by such Sankirtan. So in this way, there's many different kind of evidences we try to search out for that. Why do you chant this holy name, etc.? Lord Chaitanya's given it, that's a praman. Um, there's different other places in scripture, etc. But also here, we're seeing an example that even Lord Brahma, uh, what's the result of him understanding that the Lord's in the womb of Aditi? He begins offering prayers. And how does he do that? He recites transcendental names. And in this Kali Yuga, this is the way to do it. And the final line within this purport is a devotee knows that the Lord is present everywhere and that one can please him simply by chanting his holy name. So it's a very simple thing to do, and it has a very profound effect. So this is what Krishna consciousness is all about. This is what studying or learning Bhagavatam is all about. When I went into Bhakti Vaibhav and I felt, oh, learning Bhagavatam, like I could, master these things or take some exams or learn some shlokas. But at the end of it, the culmination is really a transformation of heart and also helping to chant the holy names better. So this is the process that Krishna consciousness takes. It's not just a book knowledge. It's not just by our endeavor, but it's also by mercy, right? So, for example, the whole Damodara Leela pastime, that there's two fingers too short, there's effort, and then there's mercy. Um, what is it? Pray as if everything, depends on the Lord, and you act as if it depends on you. Like we really need to, um, yeah, put in the endeavor, and then we'll get the desired result. So I'm going to stop there. And yeah, just open it up and see where we get to.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu. That was a fantastic class. And as you saw, reciprocation of humor does not work on this platform at all because everyone's on mute. So, right. If anyone can put their hands up if they wish to ask a question, um, I'll. Okay, so Devi Mataji, would you like to ask your question? Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, thank you very much for tonight. Um, I don't know if I remember right, so please help me to remember it. Aditi is the same person who was pregnant and wanted her children to take a revenge on Indra, right? Is the same or not? And Indra goes in the womb and makes the baby to 100 pieces or something.
I can't actually recall at the moment. Dayārdra Prabhu, do you have any insight onto that?
No,
Yes, it's the same.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Mhm.
It's the
Yeah.
same, right? And then
Yes.
the children later on, the children they get the role of being demigods, right? And then this time she wants again to be pregnant. For me, it's a kind of confusing because what I understand of the whole situation is she wants the child to take a revenge on Indra, Lord Indra, but then she got again the child. This time was Vamana Dev, right? So I don't understand how is it possible that she still got that? Was it because to give her solace because of that 101 children that she had, they went away and just was active as a spiritual. For me, it's kind of confusing, if you could help me.
I'd open that to the floor. I'm a bit not as kind of well read around the eighth canto, so it's a shortcoming on my part. But yeah, if anyone has any thoughts, happy to hear them.
I think Jidhi Shakti Mataji alluded to the fact last week with regards to what Aditi Mataji wanted, and she was in favor of the demigods at that time, particularly her son, who's leading that. So she was trying to ensure that the Devtas got prominence for that, and that's how it all happened. If you recall from that conversation, Sadevi Mataji.
But
so it's not to do with like what you're mentioning about the 100 sons, I believe.
I don't know if it's also just a difference between Aditi and Diti. That's
Diti
where,
is sister to Aditi, right?
yeah,
Diti is sister of the Aditi. So, but both of them have same husband, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So for me, the only thing I can get from this is kind of pastime for Krishna. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I have misunderstood that the whole thing is kind of pastime or not, because I mean, the same father is a father to the incarnation of Lord, but also the father of demon, the father of Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyakashi, Samika, and so on and so on. You know what I mean? So for me, is the whole thing is sound more like this is the pastime for Lord Krishna.
Mhm. Yeah, so like I don't know, the principle that I would extract is basically that, as we were reading in this particular chapter, is that Aditi's giving us the principle of she strictly followed, the instructions of her husband and spiritual master, whereas Diti was, straying away and it was more kind of on her own kind of terms and whims. In terms of the attitudes, you could say that Aditi was quite like, a bit more devotional sentiment or dependence, whereas like you described earlier, that Diti was more like revenge and anger, etc. And then yeah, the final point is that you get Varmander, but then you get the demons from the other side. So in my understanding is that it's kind of like it's just principle based. Like it shows us a lot. For example, an exalted spiritual master isn't judged by the result of having different disciples. Like, for example, is it that Prabhupada never had any disciples who fell away and who were disobedient, etc.? No, of course. He had so many that, yeah, just may have not been in such great standing or whatever it is, or fell away. But then at the same time, he had many illustrious disciples and so on like that. But I guess it gives us a kind of principle of trying to follow in Aditi's footsteps, rather than the way Aditi went about things. So that's what I would kind of take from that particular contrast, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you, Aditi, for that. I've got a couple of questions, if that's okay. I don't think there's many hands, but if there is, I'll just interject. So, right at the outset, when you were talking about the spiritual master on that particular talk that you were initially going to, and you were saying that you may have not done so because of the exalted speaker that you were intending to see. Now, do you not sort of see that certain people, when they want to take initiation, they do so on the basis of the particular personality, as opposed to whether that personality is the one that's more attuned to them? So how do you sort of avoid getting into the sort of notion of going to ask for a spiritual master as a disciple because of their standing, as opposed to whether they are the correct spiritual master for yourself?
Mm. That's a good question. I think some things are good is that we have certain guidelines, and it's kind of yeah, there's kind of a pros and cons. Like when guidelines are set, people are like, oh, you're just putting a hurdle or a block on me to get initiated or to find my spiritual master. There's a waiting period, there's a testing period, there's um kind of like looking at it seriously enough, asking different questions and so on. And I think that comes through, firstly, self-reflection as well as having that time. So time's actually a great friend. Luckily, we don't, we're very fortunate not to have a system where like, can you be my guru? Yes, here's your name, here's some beads. That would be a very kind of like, dangerous, precarious situation. And similarly, for example, like even within day-to-day relationships, like, partnerships, we generally take a bit of time. So this can kind of strip out or weed out those, yeah, not so healthy intentions or observations. For example, like, oh, I want a guru that I can be, physical proximity all the time, etc. But what happens when they leave and they're on a plane for like, they're on the other side of the world for like 10 months and then, we don't see, we don't go to anything, any programs, and then suddenly the guru's back there and then we're suddenly like really enthused and so on and everyone sees us. There's a few, um, yeah, there's a few probably deeper considerations there. Um, so yeah, in terms of choosing a spiritual master out of kind of whim, it's actually like forbidden, like it's prohibited. Like we should never think that, I don't know, my spirit, oh, I think this is my spiritual master. He smiled at me, or he, I think he was looking towards my direction or something like, or he pointed at me and he was pointing at the person next to me or whatever, or behind me. It's like, it's really getting to a deeper place. And what helps is firstly, time reveals, time helps. And the second point is that gurus help. And when I say gurus help, not the guru that you're thinking of, but the Shiksha gurus. So often at times I would circle back to my own Shiksha gurus thinking, oh, I really, I think I found my spiritual master. And the expectation I have is like, oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, I'm so happy for you. That's not what I get. Oh, so why do you, what makes you think about this personality as a spiritual master? And I'm like, oh, why ask me these questions? Like, just be happy for me. I found my guru. Um, so yeah, I think the Shiksha guru plays like as important of a role in finding our kind of journey towards initiation, and that also, Krishna is the one who gives us guru it's not a mechanical process like we were discussing earlier, that it's not by mechanics, it's actually by divine arrangement. And sometimes we may not even see it. So in the like a very micro aspect is that that class that I ended up going to, I see that as divine arrangement at the same time. I didn't just see it as coincidence. Oh, okay, yeah, I just had to change. It's like, no, Krishna, thank you for like, showing me turning up to this class because it really helped me get this particular, you know, realization and thing that I could carry forward in my life. In the same way of my spiritual master, that thank you for sending me a spiritual master that I can learn from and take to heart the instructions. So yeah, those are kind of few thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Janaganya Mataji, would you like to ask your question? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a wonderful class. I'm a bit confused about the kind of yoga you said you took a course in, and Bhakti yoga, because in Krishna consciousness it teaches you that everything in Krishna consciousness, all the shastras points to um, having attained everything that you need, like to get to Krishna, the spiritual path that you need to, are we striving for, and to gain, this is what we need to do. There's a clear message on that. So maybe you can explain a little bit more why we need to take that path, and why is it that we have so many more what shall I say, bones to the main teachings of Krishna consciousness. On spiritual path, I'm thinking of surrendering, like melting into the divine. So we are, surrendering, and which is the highest power, which is the most difficult thing that we are trying to achieve. And also letting go of the false ego-driven desires and so on. And if we know that the universe has its own, well, Krishna has his own plan for us, and we're battling with that. And there's the letting go of the attachments that we come across. And also, how do we cultivate those devotion that we need to focus on love and devotion for the divine, rather than personal gains? It's all, and embodying humility, which is very topmost and is hard to achieve as well. Yes, that's my question. Why do we have both? Why do we have Krishna consciousness versus yoga when Bhakti yoga is the highest in Krishna consciousness?
Okay, I can give a brief outline. So, what I went to do was I went to Govardhanika village to do a yoga course, primarily focusing on Hatha yoga. So like asana, pranayam, these are the things that we would focus on. And in terms of the necessity of other processes, it's just to, I guess, appreciate that it is just different parts and there's different elements within, for example, the eightfold yoga system. So there's yama, niyama, asana, pranayam. Like, let's just stop there. For the four kind of basic ones, what do we have in Krishna consciousness? We have yamas and niyamas. We have things to do and not to do, right? We have recommendations. So, for example, like truthfulness. You could say the four regulative principles are there to keep intact the four pillars of dharma. Like this, there's kind of parallels you can see in both practices. Now, when we get to asana and pranayam, yeah, these are certain things that Prabhupada may have kind of said, hey, look, it's just, basically don't put too much emphasis on these things, or don't think that they're superseding bhakti, because bhakti is the one that supersedes just, drilling your nostrils and breathing, etc. But the perspective that devotees can take towards this type of yoga, this more, hatha yoga, is that these are in pursuance of bhakti. So, for example, pranayam is just very useful before chanting. It's not a mandatory thing. Like, I didn't come back from the yoga course advising the devotees. I say, oh, you might want to try this pranayam. It's amazing. I'm not trying to, we're not trying to distract anyone from the core process and what we're doing. But if these things can help us in preparing ourselves, in settling ourselves, and so on, then these things are very beneficial, um, like that. And in terms of the way in which we're doing things, bhakti is not just the in effort, it's the mercy. Like I was mentioning just right at the end, that the Damodar Leela pastime is effort and mercy. Um, in terms of the yoga process, one can easily think it's slightly more mechanical. I do this, I get the, result and so on like that. But bhakti is also about that kind of surrender, internal surrender while we're performing bhakti yoga. Having said that, at the same time, not to dismiss the kind of yoga process, because Patanjali, in his Patanjali Yoga Sutras, alludes to the fact that the essence is Ishvara Pranidhan, like to surrender to the Lord. The way in which it's done is a little, it's longer, there's all these different things and so on like that. Whereas in Bhakti Yoga, chant Hare Krishna, follow the process, you're going to be there. So just in summary, I think that the practices of Hatha yoga, or these type of more modern day yoga, etc., or the ones that focus more on breath and physicality, uh, is actually just to help in our Krishna consciousness. And the primary reason for myself personally is I definitely felt the benefits of that in my Krishna consciousness, but also for preaching, it's profound, because preaching on the aspect of just pure bhakti, that, oh, just feel into this, just chant this mantra. As soon as there's a connection made with someone, that, oh, do you know about yoga? Oh yeah, I know about yoga. Oh, there's this pranayam technique, etc. Like it's quite like a hook to most people, that I see. And then once we can kind of address that, no, we also cool with normal hatha yoga. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great. Like, yeah, good. It calms you down. But now we've also got this bhakti yoga, and if you do this chanting and so on, this is going to have a profound effect. So this is where the intention can come from in terms of devotees practicing different yogas. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt it gives you grounding and, good foundation to start on. But it's becoming a big thing now. We're having practice in yoga regularly, even in the mana. So that's the confusing bit to me. Yeah.
Mm,
And not only that, there's other things like, what shall I say, the mandala thing. And then there's also different color therapy and I mean, why don't they call it just art? Art generally, you know,
yeah.
it's an art, isn't it? It's not Krishna conscious, I wouldn't say necessarily. If
Mhm.
okay, it's a way of maybe leading you in that path, putting but to me it's like another bow on your belt,
Mhm.
and it's more to think about and overload your brain with all these how do you connect them? That's the most important thing, and
Mm.
put it in practice. But there's enough in Krishna consciousness to put in practice. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair approach. And just a final comment on that is that if you think about it, it's the mind and body like focus that we're just trying to address. And then if the mind is if the body's grounded, through asana, etc., the mind's a little bit calmer through pranayam, great, then we might even have a even better experience. But yeah, you're right, like in terms of it's also important not to miss out the whole essence. Like, okay, we are here for bhakti yoga, etc. But if these things help our body, help our mind, then we're not against it. It's like Prabhupada also, would instruct disciples to look after your body at the same time, not to neglect the body, because we're not transcendental, we're not paramahamsas, so therefore we need some attention. And I heard this from one devotee. I haven't found a reference for it. I just thought it was interesting. But Prabhupada, someone said to Prabhupada, I'm feeling quite lusty, sex desire. He said, okay, why don't you do some exercise? I'm just like, oh, okay. Didn't think Prabhupada would ever allude to exercise, but actually, yeah, he gave that type of um, prescription sometimes as well, not just to say, oh, you need to chant better, more and etc. Is that no, you have a bodily kind of you need to kind of focus your attention to your own kind of body and calm it down through that method. So yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, we got Sadevi Mataji. Would you like to ask your question? Hare Krishna.
Yes, please. Thank you. Have I misunderstood that actually what can help us in our spirituality, in progress of our spirituality, is to listen to, for instance, kirtan and so on, to listen to Krishna Katha, story about Krishna, to read, and to do devotional service, whatever I can. Because I'm sorry to say that my body is, my back, there is 27 screw in my back, holding my back up. So I can't do much physically. And there is no way I can do yoga with all that movement they do, how they see it, how it's impossible. I can't do it because my back doesn't let me. So for me, what I have learned and understand, especially after Lord Chaitanya came, was mostly to listen, to chant, to sing, to do devotional service. But I not that I am criticizing, absolutely not, but I have 6 children now, adult, all of them adult. I know 3 of them have tried to go to yoga, and they say, Mom, when we sit, the moment we sit and try to concentrate, not often is possible, but we try to do whatever the teacher says and so on. That moment is somewhat okay, but as soon as we come out from the door, nothing is, what we have done is forgotten. You know what I mean? So that, I don't think that kind of yoga to sit and to breathe from the one nose to other nose and so on and so on, that is really can help us 100% if we don't do the rest of it. You know what I mean? Like listen to kirtan, read, and so on. If we don't do the rest of it and just do yoga, I don't think that will help us to have the progress. Why? Because we are in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, there is so much temptation. Wherever you turn, there is a temptation. The yoga you do, the moment you do in the room, is not enough to keep you focused, really focused in your spirituality. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I may be wrong, so please help me to understand. Is it really enough only by doing yoga, which I have heard somewhat some people thinking that this is, in comparison to, yes, do yoga, but not without chanting, not without reading, not without listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think both are needed. I wouldn't even say equally necessarily because yeah, like I think everyone's in agreement that bhakti yoga is, by far it's just such an easy process. If we stick to it, we'll get the result. If we do it properly without laziness, and yeah, we'll get there. In terms of yoga, it's more of a discipline and it helps us, ground ourselves in that discipline. And it is a bit difficult that I know many a times you go into a yoga class, you're like, oh, I learned these things, and then life just carries on, right? Like you just never go back to it or whatever. Whereas in Krishna consciousness, we've got a bead bag around our neck, and it's like, dude, you're gonna be chanting every day, whether it's 16 rounds around or however, if there's some commitment, great. But it's that Bhakti yoga is so accessible and it's such a primary focus. Now, there are certain aspects of Krishna consciousness that we'd have to also be careful of and that yoga can help with. So, or not even just yoga, physical yoga, but other elements, let's say Ayurveda. So, for example, many a times devotees say, oh, Prabhu, take some prasadam. And I look at the prasadam and I'm like, okay, if I get this every single day, I'm not going to be here too long because there's a lot of, oil, fat, all the rest of it. And it might be like, oh, Prabhu, it's transcendental, no, my stomach's not transcendental. Like I have to be conscious of it. I need to be thoughtful of it like that. And then that would mean that I would have to look at a particular aspect like prasadam, for example, in a slightly more, Ayurvedic, or not even Ayurvedic, but just like a yogic concept of, okay, let me not eat too much, etc. Let me eat something slightly more healthy. And that's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, right? He says, what's it called? One who is kind of like equal mitigates the pains of material suffering of is it eating, sleeping, um, recreation, and work to be balanced in these. This is what a yogi does. So in the same way, you could say that like I don't know, yoga could count as recreation for certain people. It's like a recreation, like oh, I like to go to a yoga class and so on like that. But in terms of our spiritual um, aspects and dynamics, we focus on the things that do kind of count or matter, and that's, chanting the holy names. And like I said, that uh, if for a particular devotee wants to do yoga and it helps them sit, with their spine erect and chant the holy names, then the yoga is successful because it's helped us in our kind of primary focus or goal in our bhakti yoga. Whereas if you're unable to do yoga, it's a kind of it's not a necessity by any means. Like you don't have to do yoga, you don't have to do pranayama. No one's prescribed it. I rarely see at any temple someone starting off on that premise because we know that, hey, we're here today, we're gone tomorrow. We have a very short lifespan, and therefore the yoga system is very difficult of hatha yoga because how long, like you said, we're in Kali Yuga, so I might, do some pranayama, etc. I look out the window, I'm distracted already. The mind's like crazy. And what does the Bhagavatam, like, the chapter that we're discussing, say today? It says engage one's mind in thinking of the Lord, and that's the way to help us ground ourselves. So, yeah, I think, yeah, I'm just playing down the kind of emphasis or big importance of pranayama and hatha yoga. It's like it's a nice thing. If it helps, it helps. If it doesn't help, it doesn't help. It's not a big deal. No problem. But in terms of the chanting Hare Krishna, there's not really a if it helps, it helps. If it doesn't help, doesn't help. It helps. It's Kali Yuga. Chanting's the only way. Like there's no Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Vinaste, 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 Gatiranyata to do with pranayama and hatha yoga. There is a verse that alludes to chanting the holy name, but not towards, that type of practice. So yeah, I'd say let's focus on the important things. And yeah, if someone's kind of attracted by it and it helps them, then no problem. We're not criticizing it, but we have our priorities straight that yeah, we want to chant and we want to chant as long as possible. Therefore, we look after our bodies, we look after our mind, and yeah, if that helps chanting, then we're doing it. Okay, thank you so much. I think probably a good time to end, or yeah, if there's any final thoughts, I'm good. So yeah.
Would you be okay to take two more questions if that's okay? Or are we running
I've got about 10 minutes, but
10
yeah.
minutes? Okay. It's just 2 points that I quickly jotted down, and I thought we could have a quick discussion. You were initially at the beginning, you said it's not about the destination, but it's about the journey. Okay. But when we come to listening to a lot of the classes, obviously they talk about devotional service, they talk about chanting, and the final destination, which is Golok Vrindavan, to get to that stage. And they're always talking about the final destination. So I was a little bit confused about it's not about the journey, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So could you sort of slightly allude to that?
Yeah. I'll be honest, that's probably just like an inspirational quote that sounds nice, but yeah, you caught me out in terms of okay, we need a purport for that. So I appreciate that. I think that's fine. What I'd say is that it can bring laziness if we're not in the present moment and we're too kind of like I don't know, if someone comes up to us and says, "Oh, you got your bead bag in your hand. What are you doing?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm going back to God." And it's like, "Okay, but what are you doing right now?" Like it kind of can sidetrack us. So, for example, it's kind of the mentality like even Ayendra Prabhu, I think, would kind of chant as if it's his last day on earth. What's the reality of it? It's true, we don't know. So if we act in such a way that there's urgency that what I'm doing right now, I should be present in, it helps more so than like just thinking of, oh, I'm looking to go back to Godhead, to Goloka Vrindavan, etc. It's like, no, I've been told to hear and chant. It's often like people ask, like, oh, shall I meditate on Krishna separately, or this or that? It's like, no, just listen and chant. Listening and chanting is difficult as it is. Like, I think once I was told that by someone, like I asked a question, shall I think of this, that, and the other, or look at a picture, etc. And they said, no, just hear and chant. And I think I actually felt a bit of sweating in my ear because it was so difficult and nerving to think, just try the simplistic being in the present moment and hearing and chanting. So that's what I kind of meant about the journey versus the destination of the destination doesn't have to if it serves us, if it serves the purpose of inspiring us and keeping us on track in the present moment, no problem. In my personal experience, I can only do one thing at a time. I think multitasking is a myth, and whether it's more for men or women, I don't even know. Like, I just think it's a myth in completeness. And yeah, it's better to just focus that I'm here today, gone tomorrow, don't even know where. Like, I'm not banking on going to back to Goloka Vrindavan, but I'm going to do what I know I want to do right now. I've been told by my spiritual master to do it. I'm doing it. So yeah.
Yeah. And the second point and the final question that I've got, you mentioned about the trick, Krishna tricking Vamandev, but is it not really he's tricking actually um, Indra, due to the fact that Indra is getting the materialistic the opulences basically, but Vaman Bali Maharaj is getting the Lord, so it's not really a trick, if you know what I mean, because you mentioned he was tricking Bali Maharaj there.
Yeah, as in maybe trick isn't the right word, but it's rather kind of like he's able to maintain cosmic order without like just pure intervention. I don't know, like I imagine like
Yeah,
I don't know, you got like a little Lego scene and someone's, I don't know, kids playing with it and stuff, and a parent, the kid could go, oh, and how does the demon get killed? And then the parents are, oh, let me just put my hand in there, take him out. It's like, no, no, mom, don't do that. Dad, don't do that. But there's actually like a way in which things play out, and the result, everyone just gets the desired kind of outcome. So everyone's a winner basically, and that's what I meant, that Krishna's intervention means everyone can still be a winner somehow, even if it's unfathomable. Um, like even Vitrasura and like Indra's thinking, dude, aren't you like upset? It's like, no, I'm so happy. Like, it's like, what, you're a demon. It's like, no, but the Lord, I love the Lord. It's, that pastime in particular just really confused me because like, wait, this is a demon, but he's a devotee. Like, how does the two exist? And somehow he also gives the opportunity, or he gives a way out even to Indra in that tight predicament of like, all right, go to Adichie when he's going to give you this thing, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And that's the whole point of the Bhagavatam. Like the Bhagavatam otherwise could be like a very small book of like, all right, yeah, Krishna just kept on sorting stuff out quickly. He just pressed like erase on a keyboard, but he doesn't do that. He has so much narrations, narratives, amazing ways that he's able to solve predicaments. So yeah, take that back in terms of maybe tricking purely, but also, yeah, just mainly being able to maintain cosmic order. And the trick, what I meant by trick is also just like the packaging.
yeah,
Like such a small boy asked for something simple, and Buddy went, ah, come on, it's so, yeah, of course. And then suddenly he's like, oh no, wait, what happened here? I don't know, just what the final word is like. I go to a temple, oh, bro, can you just help me just 2 minutes? I'm like, okay, doesn't sound too difficult. And then I get the request, and I'm like, wow, oh my God, Varmander's appeared here. Like there's so much more to what I thought I signed up to. So yeah.
okay, thank you very much, Prabhu, for a lovely class, and I'm sure I'll be in contact with you shortly. If we can all kindly unmute and say our three Hari Bols. Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. And before we finish, if you can kindly say the final prayers, which I'll share with you just now, if that's okay.
Mhm.
You'll see it on the screen.
Okay.
Haribo.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai,
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.